who else than Sebastian Aho as the Carolina Hurricanes win 4-3 in overtime for their fourth straight win and their fifth overall win on the North Carolina State Fair road trip to go 5-1-0.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I am also covering the Chicago Wolves, doing a column called Wolves Weekly. I'm the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun show for you guys on this Tuesday as we get to recap the 4-3 overtime win for your Carolina Hurricanes as they went 4 straight wins to wrap up the trip. Like I said, to go 5-1-0 on the North Carolina State Fair road trip, getting a 10 out of a possible 12 points. Also get to listen to Sebastian Aho post-game after their win against Vancouver, and then overall going over the 5-1-0 road trip. And what does that mean for them going into Thursday night's game on Halloween against the Boston Bruins? But before we jump into all that, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Like I said, we're going to start, we're going to recap the game for the Carolina Hurricanes in their 4-3 win against the Vancouver Canucks, where they outshot the team 32-27. So overall, pretty good shooting night for the Hurricanes outside of the third period, where they got outshot 10-8, but overall, and also the second period 12-10. But first period, the Hurricanes came out flying 13-5 on shots on goal for the Canes, and of course in overtime, only one total shot, and that's the one that mattered. But rewinding back to the first period, William Carey gets his first goal of the season after some great passing from Jack Drury that was actually deflected off of Jackson Blake's stick right into William Carey's wheelhouse, to where he blasted a phenomenal one-timer off Kevin Lincoln and to go into the goal. One of the Carolina pretty early, and you felt like this team was flying and clicking on all cylinders early in this one. However, the Vancouver did capitalize on an opportunity as Brock Besser scored his 5th of the season after JT Miller had a wrap around the goal and just found a way to get it to Besser. And then Vancouver actually did manage to get the lead for a little bit, but luckily it was overturned due to an offside. So luckily the Carolina Hurricanes kind of found a way to make it work for themselves to where now it's still 1-1. They weren't behind Vancouver, and they were able to, find a way to capitalize themselves. As not even 8 minutes later, Martin Necas gets his 4th of the season after some, once again, phenomenal passing from the Hurricanes. Eric Robinson cycling up the boards, found Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who made probably one of the most cleanest, slickest passes you can see this season. As he barely even had the puck on his stick, he just found a way to flick it on. Found an open Martin Necas who just went in and slammed it on Lincoln. And Martin Necas has been absolutely on fire, especially on this road trip. Now he's already up to 4 goals. You love to see it from him. And you go into the second intermission. You're up 2-1. You're feeling pretty good about yourselves through the fact that you got the goal of return against Vancouver, and then you found a way to score one yourself 8 minutes later. And then just kick off the second period. Assuming this entire game was just nothing but a clinic for Carolina Hurricanes passing, as Jack Roslovic gets his 4th of the season as well. Just a phenomenal pass by Svechnikov, and Brent Burns, finding a way to, turn up the ice. Great tic-tac-toe passing. Burns gets it up to Svechnikov. Svech goes down the sideboards. You see Brent Burns just chugging along, falling right behind him. Svech passes over to Burns. Burns finds Jack Roslovic in probably one of the most tightest setups I've ever seen to score a goal. Luckily, he was the properly handed shooter and got that shot off perfectly to get past Lincoln, who basically gave him a wide open net. You're up 3-1. You're really feeling good of how this team's feeling. Going to the second period, You're up 3-1. You're kind of putting a stranglehold on the game. Yes, you got outshot in the second period 12-10, but overall you're up 3-1. You're feeling kind of good going into the final period. And then pretty much from then, the whole third period was seeming like it was just the Canucks clawing their way back in, and that's why they're a team that you really can't count out. They are 4-1-2 going into the game. As Quinn Hughes from Brock Besser, just an absolute. You got to give credit to Quinn Hughes for this shot, an absolute blast of a one-timer, right from the point. It seemed like Kochekov saw some of it, but also just the placement of where Hughes shot it. Plus, there's a bunch of bodies. Nothing you really do about that. So overall, it's just what can you do there? And then what was seemingly like an absolute fire drill. Canucks are crashing the net. Got an opportunity on a breakaway, and Kochekov tried to get out of his net, tried to play the puck. He did kind of check it away, even though Jalen Chatfield was right there. Made a couple of other key saves. Then in the end, just didn't really work out for him, unfortunately. As Höglander got the break, Sprung was able to get some opportunities, and then they found Pius Suter, who pretty much almost had a wide open net, scores it, ties it with 3 minutes left. That's one of those ones where I think of like I understand where Pierre's coming from. Like he sees a guy on a break, he wants to try to break it up early. Yeah, Chatfield is right there. I could see why he thought, okay, I need a guy here, stop the puck. Initially, he did. Got a couple other big saves in the absolute melee, but then in the end, it just didn't work out. So it's one of those like, it's like a dang if you do, dang if you don't type situation. Like, what happens if Chatfield doesn't fully get back? What if he gets some kind of a breakaway? But then it's like, you tried your chance to stop it, just didn't unfortunately work out for yourself. So it's one of those things. What can you really do? It's just if you do it, great. If you do it and it pays off, great. If you don't, well, it's just. It is what it is. Unfortunately, they do tie it. Go into overtime. The Canucks do steal a point, but the Western Conference, not that big of a deal. But then in overtime, Jordan Staal wins the initial faceoff, and Carolina just basically played keep away for the most part. And of course, it didn't take him very long, as it was only 47 seconds into the period as Sebastian Aho scores his second overtime game-winning goal of the road trip, his third goal of the season. Absolutely great passing from Martin Necas, who has his 7th assist already this year, and Shane Gostisbehere getting his third, finding just a beautiful pass from Ghost, finding Aho, basically all alone in front of the net, score, just does a nifty backhand, gets Lincoln into bite, falls on the ground, just waits him out patiently, tucks it back in, and seals the win. 4-3 for the win, and that's just an overall great game by the Carolina Hurricanes. Up 3-1. Just all the dramatics, honestly. You're up 1-0. The Canucks tie it. They get the lead. Calls back for an offsides. Then you're up 3-1. Vancouver ties in the third period just by, just proper puck placement. Insane fire drills that don't work out your way, but then you come back in overtime, one shot in the entire period, and it's the one that mattered. You win, you take home the W, and now you're 5-1-0 on the road trip, winning 4 straight games. Now, the quick thing I want to talk about, 3 keys. I said that the power play needs to stay hot. Unfortunately, the 5 in a row of power play goals it's officially broken as they went over 3 on the power play. Nothing you really do there. I would love to see them gone 6 for 6, but you know what? 5 in a row, still pretty solid for the Carolina Hurricanes. And I said they also need to limit their penalty kill to 3 or less, and they did. So there you go. The penalty killers went 3 for 3. Not bad. They kept it 3 or less and killed all 3. So hey, some of the keys of the game worked, some did, but you know what? The only thing that matters is the Carolina Hurricanes won 4-3 in overtime to go 5-1-0 on the road trip and having 4 straight wins. And now they're coming back home Thursday night to face the Boston Bruins, and you'll love to see it. Now, speaking of heroics from Sebastian Aho, we'll listen to his press conference in segment 2, so stick around as we'll jump into that here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier, and we're not talking about just sports. Comedy, theater, and so much more. Game Time is the place to help you find incredible deals, and that way also with their Game Time Picks, it takes out the fluff, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And with Game Time Picks, it curates it to make it easier to save more on, like I said, sports, concerts, comedy theaters, and so much more. If there's a Broadway play you want to check out, Game Time has you. If there's a certain concert you go see, well, Game Time helps you out there as well. And if you toggle their new all-in pricing feature, well, it helps you show your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. But make sure you got to turn on this all-in pricing feature so that way you can see what your total is before you go to checkout. My favorite part of the app, well, it's their panoramic view seat finder, so that way you know what you're going to be looking at before you buy the tickets on the app. So no obstructive views, no awkward angles. It basically helps you take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and that's what Game Time is. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? I mean, well, it's game time. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Like I said, at the end of segment 1, we're going to listen to the Sebastian Aho press conference, get his thoughts on how the team was able to overcome, having the lead, losing it, and just the overall feeling of the trip and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's jump into the press conference and listen to Sebastian Aho right now.
Got away from me a little bit in the third.
Yeah, I mean, great way to finish, obviously. Played really good hockey and against really good hockey teams. So, gotta, now we can build on this and kind of know how to, play winning hockey on the road. So, they made a nice push there, and they have a few special players there who, made nice plays. But we just kept moving forward, and gladly we're able to win this game.
Can you walk us through the winning goal?
Yeah, I mean, typical OT, a lot of open ice. So Jordan did a great job winning the first draw, and I don't think we lost the puck ever since. So and then skill takes over when there's a little bit more open ice, and Netchi and Ghosty played nicely there and set up the goal.
You guys had lots of chances to almost break that open. How good was Langton?
Oh, he was great. He made a couple of key saves, and especially I felt on I think we were up a goal and shorthanded chance 2-1. So that was kind of and he got a lot onto that shot. So that was a really good save, and I felt like that was key moment for them to get back in the game. I mean, you score there, it's almost a game over. So that's a nice save.
How good does this feel? Longest road trip of the year to finish it.
Yeah, I mean it feels good, but honestly, in 2 days we're right back at it. So you can't really. What's done is done, and now we fly home and try to just repeat it. Obviously, just gotta be mentally sharp whenever I think it's Thursday. Thursday we play the next game, and just kind of keep crying.
Thank you to the Carolina Hurricanes and Sebastian Aho for that. And like Sebastian Aho said, typical OT wonder, man, just finding a way to find the puck and just be able to do what they need to do. A lot of open ice, and they capitalized on it. And that's the one thing you have when you've got guys like Sebastian Aho and Martin Necas, who Necas alone is an overtime killer. Like, he absolutely finds a way to score goals. And Sebastian Aho, just over the last few years, has been really capitalizing as well. Now you add an offensive defenseman like Shane Gostisbehere. That's a trio that you would love to see if you're a Hurricanes fan, and you would have to hate if you're on the other team, because the last thing you want to see is having, Aho, who now has 57 career game-winning goals, which ties him with Ron Francis. So move over Ronnie. You got some company up there at the top for the game-winning goals department. But then, of course, like you said, then you got Marniches, who always knows how to score goals in overtime. Then, of course, you have Sian Gostisbehere. So just having that trio is very, very huge. And yeah, and I agree with Sebastian as well when you talk about Pierre Kachekov, some huge saves that they really needed and, kind of, kept them in the game. Like I said, you kind of want to maybe take away that third goal where, if he stays in the net, maybe if Jalen Chatfield comes back, that you stop it. Maybe there is no overtime, but, that's the one thing about this team is they're relentless. They found a way to go 5-1-0. And yeah, you want to savor how your road trip was, the longest road trip of the year. You go out, you get your 10 out of 12, but it also talks to the fact of just the mentality of what Sebastian Aho and this team is the fact that, yeah, it's good to see that you got that win. You're 5-1-0 after that trip, and now you come home, a late red-eye flight. You're probably getting back super early Tuesday. And then 2 days later, you got the Boston Bruins coming to town for your first home game in 12 days, 12, 14 days. So now it's one of those things where it's savor the win, but it's on to the next one. And I think that's the ultimate goal for the Canes. Yeah, home wins are great, road trip wins are great, but ultimate goal is winning games and getting to the Stanley Cup final. And I mean, overall, when you really think about it, it's a trip that you can hang your hat on. And for the fact that Sebastian Aho got two games where he won it in overtime, it's just you're finding a way to still play your game. Even though they're not perfect games, you're still finding a way to go back to the basics, going back to what works, and you're finding ways to win games. And I said I would love to see them get 9. I was predicting 10, and they got it. And just in the way they did it as well is absolutely crazy. Because you would think, like, okay, maybe a couple overtime losses, you get some wins here, and you'll take the 10 points. No big deal. But you go out, you get 5 wins. Your only stinker is against the Blues, where you were down early, you clawed back, they beat you 4-3. It is what it is. And like I said, too, you got some, huge comeback against the Edmonton Oilers. You're down 2-0, come back in the third to tie it, win it in overtime. Against Vancouver, you're up 3-1. They tie it up. They force overtime. And then you come back and win it overtime yourself. So you look at how this game and this whole road trip went. It had all the ups and downs. It had all the stuff you needed to look at. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where you have to commend the leadership of the Hurricanes and just the mentality of, yeah, it's great. You win 5 games, you're on a 4-game winning streak, but the league doesn't stop. It's a continuous grind, and that's why you have your second game of the week. And of course, it's right after a 6-game road trip. Yeah, you got 2 days off, but really, you're coming home. It's going to be super early Tuesday morning. You're gonna be exhausted, and you're gonna try and figure out what you're doing that day. And then it's practice Wednesday, most likely gear up and get ready to go. And then before you know it, it's Thursday, and you're playing the Boston Bruins, and then it's like, okay, just right back to the grind. But luckily you're gonna be home in front of your fans on a Halloween night. So I would not be surprised if we see some spooky things happen in that game for sure, especially since the fact is against Boston. You really know what kind of ghouls and creepy things are going to happen in that game overall. And I know Halloween puns, you got to love it. But yeah, it should be a fun one for sure. But honestly, when you look back at this road trip, you got to tip your hat to the Hurricanes for what they've done. But you know what? We're going to actually talk about more of that road trip overall. What does it mean for the Carolina Hurricanes going to their Thursday game against Boston? So stick around as we'll do a whole overview recap of the road trip here in a second on a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money on sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in reward winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks now offers Venmo for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Think Connor McDavid will get more than 0.5 goals next week. Austin Matthews getting more than 2 goals. Well, cook up the hot takes with your friends and win real money this hockey season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Now, for me, I'm going into games thinking, okay, do I think Nathan McKinnon will score more than 0.5 goals? Or do I think David Pastrnak might have more or less than 2.5 shots on goal? Well, if you download the app today and use code LOCKEDONAHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONAHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineups. That is with Prize Picks. Run your game. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. And like I said, we're going to kind of do an overall recap of, just the trip as get, overall, and get my thoughts on, what does this mean for the Hurricanes moving forward? And for me, like I said, you're 5-1-0. You take a 10 out of a possible 12. You played some decent teams on the road. Like I said, the Calgary Flames, they've been kind of sputtering a little bit, but going into that game, they were 5-1. Vancouver Canucks were 4-1-2. That's still a good team that's on top of the top 3 in the Pacific. Still a team, who's has some Stanley Cup aspirations. The Edmonton Oilers, despite their record, you really can't overlook them when you have Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Evan Bouchard. That's still a team you don't want to overlook. Yes, they've dominated for most of the game, but you came back and won it in overtime. That talks about how resilient and how much there's no quit in the Hurricanes. And even when they're lost to the Blues, there still wasn't a quit for them either. Yeah, they were down 3-0, came back to tie it up. Unfortunately, gave one away pretty quick to give the Blues the lead back. But you still found a way to claw your back into the game and made it a lot closer towards the end. And then you had some dominant wins in the middle of that too. Pittsburgh absolutely put boot to the throat of Pittsburgh. You beat them 4-1, took care of business. Like I said, even in the Calgary game, while you don't want to overlook them, they still pretty much held their own and did their business. Of course, they let Calgary back in a little bit, but overall, it was one of those games where you kind of you feel good about yourself. Absolutely just going into going on the road, going to other hostile environments, and coming out with huge wins in the way you did it. So you put yourselves in a spot to where now you're 6-2-0. You started the road trip, kind of towards the bottom of the division, but like I said, there wasn't a lot of. They had some points, but it wasn't like one of those things where it's 2 games compared to everyone else. What can you really do there? And now you're coming out of this road trip. It's like I said, 6-2-0, +8 goal differential. You're 5-1 on the road now, 6-2 in your last 10 on a 4-game winning streak, where the rest of the division is either they've won 1 game or lost 1 or more games. So right now the Carolina Hurricanes sit 3rd in the division, play the same number of games as the Rangers, but only a point behind, and then they have 4 games in the hand on the New Jersey Devils. And here's the thing. The Hurricanes are 2 points back of the Devils. That's really good, honestly, if you want to take a look at it, to where they're 6-4-2. You're 6-2-0. 4 games in hand, you're only 2 points back. You'll take that. And now, Washington has a game in a hand on you, but they only have 10 points. Columbus has 8 games at 9 points. Islanders have played 8. They only got 8. Pittsburgh Penguins have played 10 games, 7 points. And the Philadelphia Flyers have played 9, but they only got 5 points. As the Carolina Hurricanes, you have put yourself in a good spot to where only the Capitals have games in hand on you, but it's only 1 and it's only 2 points. Everyone else, you're 3 points ahead of Columbus. You're 4 ahead against the Islanders, 5 ahead against Pittsburgh, and you got 2 games in hand on them. And like I said, you're only a point back of the Rangers. You're 2 back of the Devils, and you've got 4 games in hand on those guys. You've put yourself in a phenomenal spot coming out of this road trip to where you go 5-1-0. You're 3rd in the division. You're only 2 points back in the lead with a bunch of games in hand. You're only 1 point behind the Rangers, who've played the same amount of games. And then, like I said, you pretty much have at least multiple games in hand on, multiple games with points above other teams. So Columbus, yeah, you have the same amount of games, but they would need multiple wins and multiple losses from you just to be able to come back and tie you, because you're 3 points ahead and you're 4 ahead against Pittsburgh and all that. So it's like you've put yourself in a good spot to where you're seeing yourself as a team that, where everyone thought you were going to be. That you were going to be, outside of the few who think that some of the Hurricanes were going to fall off. But let's be real, they weren't going to miss the playoffs. Now you put yourself in a good spot where you're third in the division. You're kind of feeling pretty good about yourselves. Now you come back home, you play the Boston Bruins. And, of course, we'll preview that for Thursday's episode, go more into that in detail. But just being able to find yourself in a spot to where you have put yourself back in the playoff picture, which you're going to anyway. But now you have the league going, okay, the Hurricanes were supposed to take a step back, but now they just went on the road to Western Canada and the Midwest and took care of business against a bunch of teams, and especially against the Edmonton Oilers, who everyone thinks is going to win the Cup. You beat a regulation undefeated Calgary Flames at the time. You go into Vancouver, you beat a team who a lot of people think are going to, take care of business in the Western Conference. So now you you've put the league on notice now to where it's okay. Now you can't overlook the Carolina Hurricanes because Shane Gostisbehere is playing really well. He's almost like it doesn't even seem like he was gone for a year. Sean Walker, despite not having any points right now, has still put himself in a good spot to where it's okay. This guy's doing his job. That's all that really matters. Martin Necas has gone. He's on a whole other level of just taking care of business for the Hurricanes. How about 11 points in 8 games? Plus 4 as well. 2 game-winning goals already on the season. He's tied for the team lead in goals with Jack Roslovic and Shane Gostisbehere. Leads the team with an assist with 7. Jesperi Kotkaniemi with 6 as well. Like I said, in points, it is 11. Aho has 8. Shane Gostisbehere has 7. In terms of plus minus, Ollie Robinson's better with a plus 5, but you're seeing the guys who you want to step up are stepping up, and that's what you really love to see. And the fact, like I said too, you look at how Shane Gostisbehere, who's been gone for a season, comes back. No, he's like almost a point per game player as a defenseman with 7 and 8 games. Sebastian Aho, a point per game guy. Like I said, Martin Necas is where he's at now. Jesperi Kotkaniemi is almost a point per game guy just on assists alone. So you are feeling pretty good about yourself. You're seeing the guys who you were hoping to step up are stepping up, and the guys who are getting paid to be top points guys are doing that thing too. So there's a lot to feel good about. And even goaltending too, when you look at the fact that, Frederick Anderson is hurt. So they did call Spencer Martin up. We're not sure how long Frederick Anderson's out for, but both of your goalies are 3-1-0. Anderson with a 1.48 with a 941 save percentage. Pierre Kachekov with a 277 goals against an 894. So he's almost back up to 900 himself. So everyone's scoring. The goaltending is doing phenomenally well. You're 5-1-0 after the road trip. You're 6-2-0 on the season. You're in the playoff spot. Now you have to face the Boston Bruins. And honestly, at that point, you're feeling pretty good about yourselves. But in the comments, let me know what you think about the Hurricanes road trip. What would you grade their road trip? For me, I give them an A-. Did let the Vancouver Canucks come back in, kind of drop 1 to the Blues, but they did have a comeback against the Edmonton Oilers. So for me, I give them an A- on the road trip. Let me know what you would grade them in the comments below. But thank you to everyone for making Locked On Hurricanes your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Now, if you want to keep with everything that I'm doing covering the Carolina Hurricanes, well, that's One True Zach on X. Podcast is L_Hurricanes. There's a link to my bio where you can find all of my links to my articles, or just go to thehockeywriters.com where you can find me over there. For other podcasts, just go search the Search Cast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Now, for this show on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up button and let me know if you liked the show as well. Like I said, leave me your road trip grade. for the Carolina Hurricanes in the comments below. Share it with all other Canucks to become everydayers just like you, because we are over 1,000 subscribers. And let's just keep the train rolling. Let's get to 2, 5, 10,000. Let's not stop this momentum that we have going on right now. Hope everyone enjoyed the Tuesday episode of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoys their Tuesday as we get a little break from the Canes After Dark 10 o'clock starts. But until next time, as always, guys, let's go Canes.